I would like to mention we have one guest today seated in the third row in purple. Phyllis Fiji was at the original dedication in 1962. Her husband Gene was on the city council back then. And she's 97 years old joining us today. And her daughter Gail, longtime reporter and resident that covered our city for a long time. And Gail does not recall if she was here. She was a young child at the time. And I'm not sure if anybody else was at that dedication, but they may be the only ones. Oh, Karen Miller, right back here. Karen also. Glad to see you, Karen. Karen's husband Jim was on city council, and Karen was on the county planning commission and on many statewide boards, and a wonderful member of our community. So with that, I'd like to introduce our Mayor, Kyoko Matsumoto-Wrighton.
It's important to remember that before this area developed, this site belonged to the coastal Salish people who took care of this land for centuries. Today, we stand on the same site where Mayor Frank Hammer dedicated the city's first newly constructed civic center in 1962. The city was small, yet growing, with a population of about 10,500, almost half of our population today. On that October day, nearly 6 decades ago, Senator Henry Scoop Jackson was here to celebrate. And today, I'd like to introduce some of our esteemed federal and state officials, including U.S. Representative Rick Larsen, who has been such a huge supporter of Montlake Terrace as a member of Congress for the past 20 years. Thank you, Congressman Larsen, for joining us. Additionally, in attendance, we have Representative Cindy Liu of the 32nd Legislative District. And from the 1st Legislative District, we have Representatives Shelley Klova and Davina Dewar. Representing United States Senator Maria Cantwell, who has close ties to the city of Montlake Terrace and has also been a big supporter of our city, is Washington Outreach Director Cameron Caldwell. Thank you to each and every one of you for making time to attend today. We really appreciate it. From our City Council today, we have Mayor Pro Tem Doug McCardle, Councilmember Laura Sonmore, Councilmember Rick Ryan, Councilmember Steve Woodard. This is not in the same row that you're doing. And Councilmember Erin Murray, our newest one. Councilmember Brian Wall is unable to be here and sends his best. In our audience today are former city officials, including mayors, council members, city managers, and staff, as well as the heart of our community, our boards, commissions, and volunteers. Whoa. At least we didn't have the pouring rain, but. So anyways, we still want to say thank you to our boards, commissions, and volunteers, and we also have some leaders in our surrounding cities and partnership agencies. Thank you all for coming and celebrating this project that has been in the works and in the conversation for a long, long time now. We came together and we got it done together. It was a proud time in our city in 1962, and today we are proud of this new campus and proud of the community members who came together to plan, design, and fund it. This new City Hall is a place where all are welcome. And when it's safe to do so, we'll invite the whole community to celebrate with us, as we had hoped to do today following the ceremony. So, without further ado, I'd like to invite Mayor Pro Tem Doug McCardle to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning and welcome to the city of Mount Lake Terrace, the city of connections. Let's take a short journey. Mount Lake Terrace is regionally connected to public transportation by way of the transit center, which is serviced by Community Transit, King County Metro, and our soon-to-open light rail station. As you head west out of the transit center, Mount Lake Terrace is connected to its parks. If you walk down the beautiful Lakeview Trail, you'll run into Lake Ballinger Park, where you can enjoy some new amenities that will soon be open. We have new restrooms, our new boat launch and fishing pier, as well as our soon-to-be constructed all-inclusive playground. And we are a renovated trail system throughout the park, which you can then be connected to the interurban trail and head north or south throughout the region. Mount Lake Terrace is also connected via the transit center through Veterans Memorial Park with our current master planning efforts, which include park renovations and trails throughout the park that will connect transit center to this very Civic Campus in which we are right now. Once at the Civic Campus, you're connected to City Hall and city services, connected to our police department and our fire departments, as well as our Snow Isle Library. As we leave our Civic Campus and head east, we are now in our town center that is poised to accommodate the changes that will come with the opening of our light rail station. The original town center plan was developed in 2007 with a great amount of effort and community input by our residents, local business, and local stakeholders. In 2008 and 2009, this plan went through several updates after the passing of ST2 by the voters in 2008. Then the recession hit, and minimal progress was made towards seeing that plan come to life. Coming out of the recession, Sound Transit announced that Mount Lake Terrace would be getting a light rail station. Knowing we would have a light rail station, the Town Center and Economic Vitality Task Force was established by council directive in 2018. This task force was made up of residents, local business owners, local stakeholders, and city staff. After 18 months of hard work, the new town center plan was put in place. The plan will further provide for connections to housing, businesses, jobs, neighborhoods, and other amenities not yet realized. I would be remiss if I did not mention the most important connection the city has, the connection to the residents who have greatly assisted in the efforts of master planning in our parks, providing input for the Main Street Revitalization Project, the Town Center Plan, City Hall and Police Station renovation and building. The council just wants to say a big, hearty thank you. Thank you for all you have done. And thank you for all you are willing to do to assure Mount Lake Terrace is ready for the changes that are on the horizon. The last connection I'd like to mention is the connection we have with our state and federal representatives who believe in Mount Lake Terrace and are willing to support our projects and assist in seeking monies to put towards these projects. I have the privilege of introducing our next speaker. Representative Rick Larson has represented the 2nd Congressional District since 2001, and the city of Mount Lake Terrace has been in his district for nearly a decade. Under his leadership, we have experienced tremendous growth and revitalization as he has supported many projects, including the Main Street Revitalization, Hall Creek Restoration, Ballinger Park Master Plan, as well as bringing light rail service to Mount Lake Terrace and Snohomish County. So please welcome Representative Larson.
So, I mean, success has many parents and failure is an orphan, and this town is a town of parents. There's a lot of successes here in Mount Lake Terrace. I want to thank you for inviting me here today. I want to thank Mayor Matsumoto Wright and the City of Mount Lake Terrace for this invitation. The new campus here is a one-stop shop for your residents to access services that they have come to depend upon. And here at City Hall, and the police and the fire stations, or to grab a book at the library or hold a town hall meeting, which I did once as well, and hope to sometime in the future, and safely gather for community events here at Jerry Smith Town Center Plaza. The campus is also an example of how smart design breaks down barriers for people to participate in their democracy, in their community, and in the local economy. Now, last month, I met with Mayor Matsumoto Wright and city officials to discuss their vision to better connect the Civic Campus to the nearby transit center and Sound Transit light rail service. And thanks to the advocacy of city officials, I included a $2 million earmark. Say it with me, people. Earmark. I was really only, it was rhetorical, but in the House-passed spending bill for a lighted, paved, ADA accessible pathway from here through Veterans Memorial Park down to the transit center. And Congress needs to continue to invest in vibrant communities like Mount Lake Terrace to create jobs, to drive economic recovery, and to build a cleaner and greener transportation network. So we need to continue to boost spending for the Transportation Alternatives Program, which funds projects like you might have here in Mount Lake Terrace to better improve access to public transportation, to improve bike and pedestrian infrastructure, to give people alternatives and options to increase mobility in our neighborhoods, to help reduce traffic congestion through our towns and our cities, and reduce pollution. So it's my hope that your efforts here in Mount Lake Terrace will inspire communities throughout the Pacific Northwest to make government and city resources more accessible to all members of their communities. So I want to thank you again for inviting me here today. Thanks a lot.
Good morning. I'm Scott Hugel, City Manager, and it's great to see all of you here today. There are a number of, has been said, past leaders, current leaders, future leaders, and in particular, I'm thinking of you, Mr. Sood, and you, Mr. White, who, as I think about the comments about light rail, the work that Bob White and Vic Sood did in the 1970s to change state law so that transportation benefit districts, what became community transit, could be made up of less than a county but more than a city. At the time, transit agencies could only be countywide or citywide. They spent time changing state law so that community transit could be born of a region that was smaller than countywide because not all of the county wanted to participate. That model has become light rail and Sound Transit. Sound Transit follows a similar model. It is not countywide. It incorporates regions in 3 counties. That is one of the great ideas that has come out of Mount Lake Terrace's City Hall over the years. Community transit, which led to Sound Transit, and benefiting our residents still. So thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate that. So we're going to hear a lot this morning about the work of the community in designing this project, but I wanted to take some time to talk about the design team that has been working with the community now for 4 years on developing this project. And that is ARC Architects and McLeod Record Landscape Design. Beginning in 2017, ARC and McLeod Record worked with the community to come up with a concept of what a civic campus could look like. We know that previous ballot measures did not succeed, so a task force was put together to come up with a plan. ARC and McLeod Record took those initial ideas from the community and developed a concept. And that concept was ultimately approved by the voters. ARC and McLeod Record continued into 2018 to refine that design with the community, and ultimately, that is what you see before you, or behind you, as the case may be. It's an 18,600 square foot city hall. It's got chambers that can accommodate more than 100 people. Work areas for staff with plenty of light and room to accommodate future staff. It has infrastructure for ever-changing technology, so unlike our previous city hall, we are not stuck in the 1960s with typewriters. And it uses long-lasting materials, synthetic siding and metal roof, so we don't have to worry about the rain coming through as it did in old City Hall, the electrical panels. We talk about this being the first fountain in Mount Lake Terrace, but actually the first fountain was those electrical panels in old City Hall when it rained. That was really great, if you ever saw that. So with that, I'd like to recognize the staff from ARC. Jeff Wondasowicz, Ariel Jameson, Terry Record, and Ariel Farina-Williams. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to introduce Police Chief Pete Caw to talk about the addition of the police station.
Good morning to all of you, and thanks for coming. If you don't know me, my name is Pete Caw. I've been the police chief here for about 2 years. I've been a member of the Mount Lake Terrace Police Department for 35 years, which really means it took me 33 years to get this last job. So, thank you for that. Speaking of police chiefs, I'd like to recognize one of my predecessors, retired Chief Scott Smith, is in the back row trying to make himself invisible. Thanks, Scott. Anyway, I want to invite you when you're done with City Hall to come over and look at the police department. My staff had a unique experience with the renovation in that we worked among the construction. We put up with jackhammers, we put up with hammers and nails, construction workers in and out, walls that were made of tarps for a few months, and we still managed to perform our job, so thanks to my staff for that. When you tour the police department, you will see a vast improvement to what we had before. We pretty much doubled the size in square foot. We're renovating the older part of the department, so unless you ask me specifically, we'll just take you through the addition. But the older part is in renovation, so it's still getting new carpet, new paint, things like that. But we're working through it. Speaking first about the training room, it is large. It can house 108 people, something we needed for a long time. It's a very dramatic room. We're doing some soundproofing of late because it's so dramatic it echoes. It can also function as a backup emergency operations center should we need an extra one. We have a freestanding one in the city, but having a warm backup is always a good thing. The training room is named in honor of retired Captain Stan Cron. If you remember him, he spent a good number of years here. He hired me 30-some years ago. You'll see a big plaque on the wall that names it in honor. You'll see a smiling picture of Cron in his 40s and again in his 70s. So he looked the same probably through his 80s. Coincidentally, his son, Tim Cron, still works for us, and Tim will be conducting tours. And if you're familiar with Stan, Tim is a mini Stan. He just looks like him. So he's a bit younger. And coincidentally, he will be retiring in a couple years, so time passes us all by. The addition also includes a new patrol office. It's about twice the size of the patrol workroom we had before. It has new generation technology, linked up to video feeds, security cameras, the intranet, and the internet. Much improved workspace for the patrol fellows. We also have a new interview room, new arrestee holding facilities, and an evidence processing area for vehicles. Anyway, I want to invite you to come over and see me and the commanders and Tim Cron when we're done here and take a tour. Thanks again. I think Christy Osborne is up next.
Hello, everyone. My name's Christy Osborne. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director for the city. And I have the pleasure today to tell you a little bit about the beautiful space that we're all gathered in today, which is the Jerry Smith Town Center Plaza. The plaza is 14,000 square feet in size, and its design and construction was not originally included with the $12.5 million bond that was approved by the voters. This plaza was funded with park impact fees, which are collected at the time of development project approval. Several meetings and an open house were held with the community in 2018 on conceptual designs for the plaza, and the community was able to view and comment and ultimately vote on their preferred plan and their favorite design. The community chose the concept that you see, which included space for active community engagement and can be programmed for market space, entertainment, and all different types of social activities in the city. The plaza's design includes the flag pavilion, a terrace seating wall, which is behind us, concrete scoring that radiates here in the plaza, several different lighting features, which includes in-ground lighting and then lighting along the street, and artwork and our water feature, which was included. Also, bright tables and chairs, which will be removable, will also be added to the plaza in the future. There are street frontage improvements were included to extend the plaza out to the sidewalk and to the public right-of-way of the street edge at grade, and include, you can see trees and landscaping along the frontage improvements as well. One of the most exciting features, I think, of the plaza is the public artwork that is featured as part of the plaza, which was funded by a 1% municipal arts fund, which is collected on every municipal project that the city does. The Arts Advisory Committee, with approval from our city council, selected the 2 artists whose work that is featured in the plaza currently. Artist Louise McDowell created the 3 bronze sculptures that are located throughout the plaza: Playmates, Going for the Goal, and The Winning Catch. And I believe, I don't know where Louise is sitting, but I know that she's here today. Louise, you want to stand up if you... There's Louise. Thank you. And also artist C.J. Wrench created the sculpture Urban Flowers. Due to funds that were available from the Arts Fund, the city only had enough resources to do 2 of the flowers, and the piece was intended to have 3 flowers as part of it. That's where we called on one of our community partners, Primera Blue Cross, who stepped up without hesitation and provided the additional funding in order to complete that art piece. And we thank them today for doing that. And lastly, the water feature, which was the most requested element at all the community open houses. The community has wanted a water feature, I'm told, for years and years and years. And the water feature was made available by the generous donation of the Hazel Miller Foundation. The water feature is an integral part, as you can see, of the plaza, and we extend our heartfelt appreciation to the Hazel Miller Foundation for its funding. And with that, I will turn the microphone over to Virginia Klug, Mr. Vic Sood and Linda Rogers to tell you about the project history and community involvement.
The city created a nomination form and invited the public to submit ideas to name this plaza. Some submittals were geographic in nature. One suggestion was naming the plaza after former mayor Dr. Frank Hammer, but overwhelmingly, nominations were in favor of naming the plaza after Mayor Jerry Smith. The Recreation and Park Advisory Commission reviewed the nominations and combined Mayor Smith's name with some of those geographical suggestions. The recommendation that was later adopted by the City Council was the Jerry Smith Town Center Plaza, and he keeps making his sign fly away. Jerry passed away in 2018, and most of us here today know that Jerry did a tremendous amount of work for this community, and much of that service was before he ever became an elected official. Jerry began his tenure on the City Council in 2002, and Councilmember Laura Sonmore and I worked with him the entire time he served on council. I'd like to invite Councilmember Sonmore to come up and share her thoughts.
As you can see, we did it. We actually did it. We realized a goal today. And welcome to Mount Lake Terrace City Hall. It's an honor to talk about Jerry today. Jerry's legacy lives on through each of us and our new City Hall. Jerry was a self-made man. He was one of 12 children. Can you believe 12 children? He came from a family of modest means. He overcame mountains of challenges to improve his life and those around him. He joined the Army. He married Judy. Good job, Jerry. He became a Seattle police officer, mayor of the city of Mount Lake Terrace, president of our sports association, MTYAA, for 25 years. Jerry and Judy created Tour de Terrace. Jerry was involved in many service organizations, such as Nile Shriners, Lions Club, this will take a minute, American Legion, helped establish a senior center, fought for the light rail, helped lead the original town center plan, supported the police and the new building addition. The mayor was on the council that put the measure on the ballot for the new city hall. Jerry worked on state and federal projects that helped earn our city over $20 million for projects around our city. And I want to give a quick shout out to our federal and our state delegation, our city employees, current and former council members. And I saw some former council members, one over there, one here. Can you guys raise your hands? Thank you all. Al, Julie, Angela, and Michelle, thank you all for all your hard work that you put in to our city. But most of all, too, I want to thank our citizens for reaching this goal. We would have never have done this without them. I'm going to end this dedication with a 90-year-old children's story. And we have two council members that are teachers, and so just bear with me for a minute here. In a tale, a long train must be pulled over a high mountain. After its locomotive breaks down, the engine succeeds in pulling the train over the mountain while chanting, "I think I can, I think I can." Well, Jerry was a self-made man who scaled many mountains. He changed the face and direction of Mount Lake Terrace. Jerry left a legacy indeed, with compassion, courage, dedication to public service. Our mayor will be remembered with his perseverance to climb those mountains, all while saying, "I think I can, I think I can." Together, we have hurdled mountains together. One of those hurdles was building this new city hall. The story of the engine is a metaphor about difficult goals. It is clear that pulling the train over the mountain wasn't easy for the little engine. The engine was chanting, "I think I can, I think I can," which represents the power of determination. Our city has reached the goal today because of Jerry Smith and each and every one of you. And now we have a beautiful city hall to call our own. It sits on top of a mountain. It's called Mount Lake Terrace. The phrase, "I think I can," now becomes, "I knew we could, I knew we could." And thank you all, each and every one of you, for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us today. Thank you.
It's appropriate to name this plaza after Jerry Smith because it's a great place to gather, and finding ways to help people gather was one of his talents. Each day that I've worked here now, I see people visiting on walks, interacting with the fountain, and enjoying the beautiful artwork. It truly is a wonderful place to gather as we do so today. Yet it's a strange feeling not having Jerry at the podium speaking today, and I know many of you, like me, feel his presence here. I'd like to invite Councilmember Sonmore back up here, along with Jerry's wife, Judy, son, Scott, daughter-in-law, Tisa, to come up here to help us dedicate this plaza in his honor. It's quite an honor for Councilmember Sonmore and I to present the Smith family with a replica of the brass plaque that will be installed on the outside wall of the council chambers facing this plaza. And the plaque reads, "In honor and memory of Jerry Smith, 1941 to 2018, a 50-year civic leader who was a U.S. Army veteran, Seattle police officer, coach, youth sports league president, and later in life, an elected official. Jerry and his wife Judy founded Tour de Terrace for the city's 40th birthday in 1994. He helped establish the Mount Lake Terrace Seniors Group in 1999 and served as a member of the Nile Shrine, Terrace Briar Lions Club, and American Legion Post 234. In 2002, Jerry became a Mount Lake Terrace City Council member and served as mayor from 2004 to 2018. Jerry took pride in welcoming everyone to our city and was known as Mr. Mount Lake Terrace. And as mayor, his favorite expression that many of us have heard was "moving right along." And under his leadership, the city made great strides to improve quality of life for our community. We miss you, Jerry. I don't think the Smiths are big on public speaking, but if you'd like to say anything, now's the time. All right. Thank you all these are the 3 people that continue to do Tour to Terrace today with a few more volunteers, but they took it over. So let's give them a hand for that. And moving right along in the program, we're going to do a little project history. The journey for a new city hall began in earnest 13 years ago with the appointment of a volunteer Civic Facilities Advisory Task Force comprised of 11 Mount Lake Terrace residents. They were asked to make recommendations on a plan to address the city's aging facilities, particularly the Recreation Pavilion and City Hall that had exhibited numerous structural deficiencies for nearly 20 years, as Scott mentioned earlier, with the water leaking into the electrical panel. And I do have photos, if you don't believe me. In the summer of 2008, the ceiling of the council chambers collapsed, and as a result, the task force's work plan accelerated with a focus on City Hall. They met the remainder of 2008 and early 2009 and held community meetings before making a recommendation to construct a new City Hall on this site and ask voters to fund it with a 30-year capital bond. As I mentioned, the task force had 11 members, and I'd like to introduce Those of you who are here today, they're seated over here. Please stand when I call your name. One of the co-chairs of the task force is Vic Sood, a former council member, longtime planning commissioner, and the original executive director of community transit. And we'll invite him up in just a moment to speak. We also have, standing already, Judy Ryan, chair of our Arts Commission. Thank you, Judy. And next is Al O'Brien, former city council member, across the aisle here, longtime state representative from the 1st District. Was it 14 years, Al? And leader of the Mount Lake Terrace Seniors. We're so proud to have you here today. Other members unable to join us today are Yvonne Jones and Gerald Connor, who had prior commitments today, and Patrick Pierce, who went on to serve as president of Economic Alliance of Snohomish County, who now lives and works in North Carolina. Bob Dibbing wished to be here today. He's still a resident, but he stayed home due to the pandemic, and they all contacted me and sent their best to everyone. You guys can sit down right now. Got a little piece left. Sadly, 4 members of the task force have since passed away, including co-chair Patrick McMahon Sr., who's represented today by his son, Pat Jr., if you'd stand. You'll see a little bit about his dad, who helped incorporate the city in our video later. Pat passed away in 2013. Bob Downing, who's represented today by his daughter, Kitty Kramer. Bob passed away late last year. Alice Kears, who's represented by her partner, Larry Harris. Alice passed away just this past February. We gave her pictures of the inside of City Hall, and darn it, she wanted to make it, and if it would have been done by the end of last year, she would have made it. And she was a 25-year member of the Planning Commission, downtown task force back in the 90s, and she is here. And Steve Lottie, who's represented by his partner Linda Rogers, was on the task force. And I'm going to add real quick that Vic, Bob, and Steve particularly brought that, with the task force, they brought the farmers market here. But those 3 opened it up every day and sat there and then closed it down every single day that farmers market was open the first year when we had it right here on 58th. And they were a huge part of this. And there's a little picture of them here. And so in their memory, and in honor of their dedication to Mount Lake Terrace, and specifically this project, we have 4 yellow roses to represent them while their family members stand in for them. They were all so passionate about this project, and their strong commitment to our city is remembered today. And now, I'd like to invite the task force co-chair, Vic Sood, up to the podium to say a few words about their work.
Happy to see some of the members of the task force and Judy and the task force members put in a lot of time and effort and a lot of meetings and came close to success but lost by a small margin. In June of 2008, the Mount Lake Terrace Council established the Civic Facilities Task Force charged with the replacement of the aging civic facilities. The task force was charged and the design and look at the design and financing as well. The task force looked at a community center, city offices, recreation pavilion, and other amenities. Members of the task force, as was pointed out earlier on, were members at large, city advisory boards, and community members. The city contracted with the firm of consulting firm of Clear Path to assist the task force with this endeavor. After considering various design options of City Hall, input from City Council and community meetings, the task force recommended the City Council a design concept with a LEED standard for construction at an estimated cost of $38 million, and recommended that a property tax levy to fund the project. The City Council placed the measure on the November 2010 ballot, asking for this $35 million in bond approval. The measure failed. We only got 47%. The City Council, from the results of the post-election survey, showed residents approved the project, but not the financing. With this in mind, the original proposal of $38 million was reduced to $25 million by eliminating about 7,200 square feet from the project. The City Council put the $25 million measure on the ballot on August 2012. The measure received an approval of 56%, but short of the 60% approval required under state law. Now, the council put the $25 million measure again on the ballot on April of 2013 elections and received approval of only 53%, again short of the 60%. So that's where we put in a lot of hard work, but at least it's nice to see that the fruits of the labors of some of the task force members are fulfilled today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vic. And I know Scott covered the work that he did with City Manager Bob White. And Bob told us that and here's Bob on the aisle here. There you go. Bob was city manager for 25 years, from 1967 to 1992. And we're so lucky to have him in our community still. But he told me that Metro stopped serving our city, and the citizens came to the council meetings and complained, and so he hired Vic Suv to fix the bus problem and solve that problem, and solve it he did. He did such a great job, he and Bob, getting the legislation planned and forming community transit. He ended up becoming the CEO of community transit. So that's quite a legacy and a history from Mount Lake Terrace. And happy 90th birthday, Vic. While the task force got this project off the ground, it took several more years to cross the finish line, as you'll see later in our city historical video, and as Vic just explained. In previous measures, the voters did not agree on the size, scope, and cost until 2017, when the City Hall Advisory Committee was appointed and worked closely with the residents, and they're seated over here. I had the pleasure of working with the 9 residents appointed to the committee, along with HR Manager Leslie Choate, who I think is out there somewhere, along with City Manager Scott Hugel, ARC Architects, who was eventually selected for the design of the project, was extremely helpful in engaging the community with us, and I'd like to recognize Rex Bond, who's not here, and he's now retired, I believe, living on the beaches of Mexico. But Rex engaged our community with us and did a tremendous job, and I just wanted to call him out on that. Next, I'd like to recognize the members of the committee, and please stand when I call your name. Stephen Barnes. Dustin DeCook. Come on over here, Dustin, a little closer. Rory Payne Donovan. Vic Sood. And Ia Wolf. Is Ia here? Okay, we expected her. Also, Maggie Heineman and Vice Chair Stan Lake, who are unable to be here. And finally, the committee chair, Linda Rogers. You can come on up, stand next to me, and she'll be speaking in a moment. The committee made a strong effort to involve the residents early and often. They took care to engage them on incremental decisions to ensure buy-in for the project moving forward. For example, the committee participated with the selection process for the architects we worked with. We had worked with a different firm during the original ballot measures, and some people thought it was a done deal. We'd use the same company, and they wanted to be involved right from the get-go in that decision, and that helped with buy-in. Residents were asked other basic questions, such as, how many stories should the building be? Where do you want to site the building, near the corner or set back from the street? And that decision led to the plaza being located here today. Each decision point led to the next, and input was gathered at dozens of community meetings, some small, some large. And the chair, Linda Rogers, is going to speak to that.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I have subsequently moved out of Mount Lake Terrace, so it's especially an honor to be asked to come back and speak with you. When the CHAC committee was formed, we had an assignment to meet with the community, find out what is it you really want. What is it we need? Not just want, but it was made very clear that the community did not want a Taj Mahal. That was adamant in the discussions that we had. What do we need? And part of that need included the ability to expand if we needed to. We didn't know what the future was going to hold. And I suspect that with some of the changes and with the new City Hall, that with COVID and so many people working from home, that the city was able to adapt to that. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm guessing that they were able to do that. As has been mentioned before, the bond measure was put before the citizenry and failed 3 times. The committee went out to the public, holding one-on-one meetings, meeting with people at the senior center, at Vineyard, at donut shops, at La Pierre Bakery, you name it, we met with people. We heard very clearly what you had to say, and we brought that back to council. Our meetings that we had was also open to the public, and they were able at the end of the meeting to offer their input on what had been discussed. These comments were heard. They were subsequently taken to City Council with recommendations. Along with that recommendation was a cost factor, and that was $12.5 million, which didn't realize we were going to be towards the end of the recession and the costs were going to skyrocket. However, we did go back to council. They heard us. They put the bond on the ballot, and it was passed by almost 70%. That was done with the input from the community as well as the work of the committee, and I'm very proud to have been a part of that. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to, thank you, Linda, and I'd like to pass the mic over to City Manager Scott Hugel. We're getting close to the end, folks.
All right, so as Virginia said, we're getting close to the end, people, so hang with us, and then it'll be time for tours, so you can see the inside of what we actually have. In addition to the community and architects, I'd like to recognize the work of staff. You may not think about it, but cities are required to follow the same permitting processes that you and I do. That means applying for land use, civil, building, and a host of other permits. And city staff then treats that application like any other, calling for corrections to those plans and corrections to construction to ensure compliance. But at the same time on this project, staff is also representing the owner of the project, the community. And so they did all they could to make sure it was done right. While virtually every city employee participated in the project in some regard, design, inspection to ensure the quality that the community deserves, the scope ranging from the addition at the police station to replacing stormwater lines to adding, building the city hall itself. It required a level of work from certain staff that requires that recognition. So, Tom Morley and Matthew Geisel, I saw Tom earlier, inspectors on the project, holding the contractor accountable every step of the way, along with Maggie Eli and South County Fire, who served as fire marshals. Public Works Supervisor or Superintendent Peter Dressel, familiarizing himself with the construction plans. Recreation and Parks Director Jeff Betts, who together with Recreation Park Advisory Committee put together initial plans and the financing for the plaza. Police Chief Pete Kaw, who, as he mentioned, somehow kept employees at the police station from going insane while working so close to jackhammers and saws as the addition was being added. And let me tell you, it was noisy over there. Ken Courtmanch, Parks and Facilities Superintendent, who along with facilities staff coordinated furniture delivery and the move into the new city hall, along with learning the details of this new facility from electrical to mechanical to fountain pumps. Community and Economic Development Director Christy Osborne, HR Manager Leslie Choate, and Deputy Clerk Leslie Lavoie, helping out not only with today's event, but for their input on plans and pointing out where my good ideas were not good. Thank you. Didn't need that. Well, I was going to recognize Virginia, but I'll skip that. Just kidding. So Virginia Clough, right here, Community Relations Director, ensuring the community was kept informed along the way at every step, working with community advisory groups, visiting those donut shops that Linda mentioned and being there, and then coordinating today's event. All that you see before you is Virginia. And like any good supervisor, Virginia just mentioned, and her staff, Ricky and Leslie Lavoie. And last but not least, Stephen Clifton, Assistant City Manager. He could not be here today due to a prior commitment. Stephen is the Assistant City Manager who has served as project manager on this project since 2018. And if there was one person who can be said to have done more to get this project to completion, it is Stephen. From weekly owner, architect, and contractor meetings to shepherding through the selection of the smallest details like furniture selection, paint colors, lighting, Stephen has been on top of it. One example, early on in the project where we were trying to figure out the layout of work areas, Stephen came to me on Monday morning and he had a layout with little pieces of paper he had cut to scale of work areas, and he had spent the entire weekend figuring out how to make it fit. It was like a jigsaw puzzle, but he made it work. I know there have been several nights and weekends like that for Stephen because I saw it in his emails, and now you see it before you. And soon, in 5 minutes or less, you'll be able to see the inside of the facility. So with that, I'd like to thank the staff, but also, while I'm thinking of it, I want to also recognize retired, long-serving City Attorney Greg Schrag back there, who's here with us today. Greg had a significant role in this project, the contracting, making sure things went through. I'd like to say it had nothing to do with his retirement, but it could be. But he seems to be enjoying it, which I'm glad to hear. So with that, we'd like to dedicate this plaque. It has the city council, both current and those council members who were on when the measure was placed on the ballot, as well as city officials, recognizing them. This is a replica It will go into City Hall, similar to the Jerry Smith Town Center Plaza plaque. And now that I'm seeing all these other staff around, I'm thinking we need to do an addendum to it with a second and third plaque to add them all on it as well. And with that, I'd like to thank you for coming. Please enjoy the touring, visiting the plaza and the police station. And now I'm going to turn over to Virginia for any final details, but thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to go up and cut the ribbon. If I can have my front row folks here up by the ribbon by the entrance, I'm going to grab the big scissors and get my photographers in place. And we invite everybody to come up. And my husband brought 2 big sheet cakes from a really nice bakery, so they'll be rolling out soon too. So stick around for a little bit, and we'll run a video tour after the ribbon cutting and an in-person tour. Thank you all for coming.